I have a message from the Village Jedi.
Max Rebo, hit it! Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to my Star Wars podcast from a little outpost brought to you by the local Village Jedi. I'm Marina, and if you're new here, welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you here. So if you haven't noticed yet, if you're not watching on YouTube, just because today is kind of a special day, get to know the host. We're going to be interviewing myself, just to give you guys a little bit more depth on what the purpose of this show is, who I am, how I got into Star Wars, all that. We'll get into it. That's a long-winded way of saying that if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm dressed up today. I'm dressed up as Rey, who, as we'll get into later, is one of my favorite characters. And honestly, I love when I get to dress up as her. I've only gotten to wear this outfit a couple times, and I thought how fun would it be to get all dressed up and do it for this special episode. So thank you. I'm so happy to have you guys here. If you're not watching on YouTube, go check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes. So before we get started, I'm going to go over a couple ways on how you guys can join in on the discussion as listeners. Number one, I have a Substack over there. My handle is @thevillagejedi or @markyber, all one word. I mostly just use it to post show notes from the episodes, but if you want to join in on the discussion there, that's a great place. Another one, I'm still experimenting with my presence on social media, but for now, I have an Instagram and a TikTok, also @thevillagejedi. And then last but not least, if you would like to send in something for me to read on air, please send in an email at tvjpod@gmail.com, and I'll read it and we can talk about it together. So that's just a good few ways that you can join in on the discussion and be part of the Village Jedi community. So with all that said, I have a lot to yap about. Today we're going to be going over a little bit about me, kind of an interview. So I put up some questions that I came up with, and then also I included some of your questions that were commented on a recent social media video I posted earlier in the week the other day. So we'll go over those as well. I did want to announce something exciting. So today is Friday. If you're listening, this is live, March 6th. And there's also a bonus episode where I recorded earlier in the week with the wonderful Star Wars podcast, Empire Radio. You can find them just about anywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And this week they featured me on their show, and we got to talk a lot about women in Star Wars, how to write female characters. We went over 3 that I feel like personally are pillars in the Star Wars community, 3 characters, and then 3 that maybe we could have done a little bit more with that I would like to see more of. So if you're interested, it was a great time. I'd encourage you to go check that out. I'll put the link in the show notes for that as well. Just, to reemphasize, that was on Empire Radio. You guys should go listen to them. They're a really great community over there. I've been listening for a really long time. So that is exciting. I was so excited to be on that show, you guys. Like I said, I've been listening for a long time, like 6 years. And so when they asked me to be on the show, I don't know, it just was really exciting. A little piece of my Star Wars fan heart was just like, I can't even believe this, starstruck. So go check that out. So yeah, like I said, we're going to be going forward and opening the archives on your host. Who is the Village Jedi? Who is Marina? Who is this person dressed up as Rey? Okay. I was thinking, now that we're a couple weeks in, I've got my notes over here, so I'm glancing in this direction. Now that we're a couple weeks in, I wanted to go ahead and formally introduce myself and share with the club some information about my personal Star Wars journey. And like I said, we'll go over some of those fan-submitted questions as well toward the end of the show. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first question, I wrote down 10. The first question is, why did you start a Star Wars podcast? So I started a Star Wars podcast for the same reason everybody else starts a Star Wars podcast. The same reason everybody writes books, draws pictures, dresses up as their favorite characters, It's because you love it, right? And you enjoy it. And they say you shouldn't start a podcast unless you can talk about the subject for hours and hours and hours. So that is me with Star Wars. I feel like I could just talk about it like crazy. I've binged all the shows many, many times, binged all the movies. I watch the movies when I'm sick. I watch the movies when I want something to turn on while I'm doing my house chores. Like, I'm pretty much always consuming some form of Star Wars media. And if I'm not watching it, I'm reading it. I got a Kindle last summer and I've been going through the Star Wars books. I have a few, if you're watching on YouTube, a few of my collection, my books displayed. I haven't read all of them yet. I'm slowly making my way through. But like I said, ever since I got my Kindle, I've just been going into new books like most readers do instead of addressing the books that I currently own at home that are just collecting dust on my shelf. So also, I will take a second to point out, if you're watching on YouTube, I updated my backdrop for this week. So it actually looks like a Star Wars podcast now. Last week, it was just a white curtain, which is fine. But I wanted you guys to see that I actually am a Star Wars podcast. Like, one of my dreams, and I think I might do this as the podcast progresses, as it gets bigger and I just like get more invested in it, more excited with it. I want to kind of completely restructure our office, kind of like some of those other Star Wars podcasts that I look up to and aspire to be someday, where they pretty much have like a whole wall of collectibles they've gotten, and you know, their favorite books, posters. Like, that is the ideal backdrop. But for now, we've got my little collection here, what I could fit, and I'm excited to slowly keep building onto it. I have other things in our other spare room, but I just didn't want to clutter it. Like, I didn't want to overdo it. So hopefully you guys like, this is kind of nice. Like, it looks pretty good. So anyways, that's why I started a Star Wars podcast. It's pretty cut and dry, straightforward. I low-key feel like this is an interrogation because I also got like this ring light and it's like bearing down on me like I'm getting a little warm. So I'm looking at this list of questions and I'm staring at this like bright, warm light. And there's a camera. I don't know. The vibes are kind of interesting today. I'm dressed up. I'm wearing a bunch of makeup. It's just, it's a little bit of a hot mess today, but it's okay. So moving on to our second question then, as far as a posting schedule and goals with the show, what are those? I feel like posting on Fridays has been really working for me. That way it gives me kind of the whole week to slowly work on the editing process. I'll get into that a little more later too. But then it also just gives me a week to slowly chip away at my episode outline, little notes I want to bring out or little gems that I think are interesting that you guys might like. So hopefully we'll stick with posting every Friday. If you guys want that change, go ahead and drop a comment or send me a message. I'm sure the majority will rule, and I'll just, do whatever's easiest for you guys because I want you to enjoy the show as well. But the idea of Fridays too is like it gives you something to do on the weekend. Like, maybe if you're like me, your weekends are full of like catching up on laundry and running errands. And so I catch up on a lot of my podcasts over the weekend. So that was kind of the vision for that. And as far as goals with the show, I kind of just want to have fun. Like, this is very chill. I don't claim to know everything about Star Wars. There's still a lot that I'm excited to learn and read about, especially as I get more involved with the books, comic series, things like that. We've got a bunch of new media coming out the rest of this year. So I just, want it to be a place where I can come on here, talk about something I like, get involved with, the listeners, and we can just form this community of people who like Star Wars as much as I do. So that's kind of my goal, is just to have a good time talking about something I love and that makes me happy. My third question is, how was I introduced to Star Wars? So, like a lot of people in my generation, I grew up listening or watching the prequels, and they will always have a special place in my heart. So I grew up watching those, but then we also had the original trilogy and the prequels on VHS tape. And so I would watch those VHS tapes quite a lot. But then honestly, I didn't really stick with it. Like, we kind of like Star Wars. My brother and I would play the Lego Star Wars game on our PS2. And that was kind of the extent of it. And then in 2008, like everybody else, when the Clone Wars animated show came out on Cartoon Network, I tuned into that once in a while, but I didn't really start getting into it again until I was probably 15 and I was in high school, and Clone Wars was on Netflix, so I was watching that quite a bit, just kind of like while I was doing homework and whatever. And then I discovered there were books. I went to one of my local secondhand stores here and found some Star Wars books in their book section. And I was like, they make Star Wars books? Because at that time, I just really loved to read. And then I just went crazy and I started buying a bunch of Star Wars books, reading them. And about that time, Clone Wars Season 7 was announced. Disney Plus, it had just released The Mandalorian. And so there was all this exciting Star Wars content being announced and released, and I was like, I love this and I want to get back into this. So it's been kind of touch and go, but it's been present kind of throughout my life, and I would say I'm a bigger fan now than I ever have been. Obviously, I'm starting a podcast about it. I'm putting myself on the internet talking about how much I love it. So that's kind of how I was introduced to it. My next question is my favorite animated show, and then I also put in parentheses specifically my favorite arc of that show. My favorite animated show, just like I said, because of my relationship with it, is The Clone Wars, my history with it. Watching season 7 of The Clone Wars is really what just pushed me back into the Star Wars fandom. Obviously, The Bad Batch was so exciting, and I liked to watch that arc where we got introduced to those characters. But I don't think I'm alone in saying the Siege of Mandalore is easily one of the top 3 arcs in the entire Clone Wars, and that has got to be my favorite. It changes pretty on the daily just because, like I said, I binge that show pretty often, but Siege of Mandalore is pretty much always right there. Like, I'm always down to watch Siege of Mandalore. Like, my husband and I, a couple times we've watched it as like a movie night, and it was pretty awesome. Like, I got to be there with him the first time he watched it, and so that made me love it even more. Like, I have special memories tied to watching it with him together. And honestly, just the creativity of that whole arc. Like, if you're like me, the first time you watched it, I didn't know where Clone Wars was going to end. And we had to wait a week for each episode. There's 4 episodes, and you had to wait a week in between those cliffhangers. And I remember thinking, like, how is this going to end? Because it opens up, if you're not familiar, it opens up with Bo-Katan basically recruiting Ahsoka to weed out Maul. He is hiding on Mandalore, and he's been causing all this chaos for her people with his kind of sympathizers. And she's like, we got to get this guy out of here. So I'm going to go to Ahsoka. She's a Jedi I know. And Ahsoka is like, well, I'm not really a Jedi anymore. I don't know how much I can help you, but maybe the Republic can help us. And Bo-Katan's like, I don't know about that, girl. We can try it, but I don't think it's going to work. Shocker, it doesn't work how they thought it was going to work, and Ahsoka ends up taking some of the 501st with Rex. He's promoted to commander, and their team kind of goes and takes care of Maul. Well, halfway through the arc, they capture Maul, and you're like, okay, where's this going to go? And then all of a sudden, we're on a Republic Star Cruiser, and we're just like going through hyperspace, and then Order 66 hits you. It, like, you can kind of tell something's coming because the eerie music, it's like you can just feel something is coming. And then Order 66, you hear Anakin's voice and Palpatine and Mace Windu, that whole scene from Revenge of the Sith, and you're like, oh, yo, this is about to be crazy. And it is. The whole rest of that show is just like chilling moments. And then rewatching that Practice Makes Perfect episode from Tales of the Jedi, it just makes that arc and that scene so much better. Like, the whole thing, movie production budget, very, very great content. It's an amazing way to end the show. It's just, I can't say enough good things about it. So Siege of Mandalore is my favorite arc from the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars is my favorite animated show. That doesn't mean I don't like any of the other ones, but it is my favorite show. So, moving on. Number 5 question, my favorite live action show. I wrote this a couple days ago, so I kind of forgot. I'm not pretending to be shocked. Like, I genuinely did kind of forget what these questions were. My favorite live action show. Okay. I had to think about this one for a while because there has been so many live action shows and they've all gone in such different directions. Like Bad Batch, Clone Wars, Rebels, like we all kind of know what the premise is and they all connect to each other. Like you watch one and then you watch another episode of the other and it makes that episode that make the other show so much better. Like they just connect really well. But the live action shows, some of them are just kind of like they're doing their own thing and then they kind of mesh in places, but for the most part, like they're telling their own stories, using their own characters, and you don't really have to watch one to enjoy the other, in my opinion. So, with that being said, I think my favorite live action show is The Mandalorian. Because, like I was mentioning earlier, I'm a very sentimental person. That's another thing you guys should know. This is a host interview. Something you should know. I'm a highly sentimental person. And so when something has a good memory tied with it, I am kind of loyal to it for life. So The Mandalorian, I am so grateful for the way that they did that show. It just propelled me back into loving Star Wars. Like a lot of fans, I would argue a huge influx of fans came in once The Mandalorian dropped. I talked about that in a past episode. You guys should go check those out. But I don't know. It just, every time I rewatch that first episode of The Mandalorian, season 1, episode 1, the bay doors open and we see him. Like he's just standing there in all his glory, Din Djarin. You don't know his name. You don't know his story. You don't know nothing. And he utters one line. His opening line is, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. The toughest opening line. You're like, oh, okay, I know exactly who you are. I'm so excited to get to know more. And the rest of that just sets the tone for the whole show. The whole show, you're just wondering what's going to be next because it's so brand new. And everything that it comes out with, everything that they do and try creatively, it just hits. Like nothing in that show for me is a miss. There's a couple filler episodes here and there, I will admit, but for the most part, what they've done with Bo-Katan, what they've done with everything live action on Mandalore, introducing Grogu, potentially one of the best ideas Disney has had in a long, long time. That show, I can't say enough good things about it, so it probably is my favorite live action show. However, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see an Ahsoka poster in my background, and depicted in that poster is when Ahsoka sees Anakin again for the first time and they have their whole moment in the world between worlds. If that all sounds like gibberish, I understand. Please go watch Star Wars Rebels. It's an incredible show. But that episode, you guys, dare I say, the best piece of Star Wars media. Unfortunately, the weight of that moment has to come from years of work. Like you have to watch the Clone Wars, you have to watch Tales of the Jedi, you have to watch the movies, you have to watch Rebels. Like it takes work to get to the gravity of that moment in that show. But that episode is so well done. Hayden Christensen comes back. He does a phenomenal job. And the way they depict Ahsoka's traumatic memories of the Clone Wars, like it's kind of in this fog because some of it she's processed, some of it she hasn't. Because when it comes to trauma victims, a lot of your memories are gone. They're altered. You can't remember things correctly. So that's part of the process of having to work through is like, wait, what exactly did I just survive? And so it's Ahsoka going through that episode of her show. It's just absolute cinema. The Mandalorian is my favorite show, but that episode of Ahsoka has to be like my favorite piece of live action Star Wars television media. So, okay, with that all said, we'll move into the next question, which is, what is your favorite movie? Revenge of the Sith, no question. Before, I probably would have said Rogue One or The Force Awakens because, like I said, it was just kind of right in that time of when I started getting back into Star Wars. But after seeing the anniversary release in theaters last year, Revenge of the Sith, I dressed in this exact outfit and sitting in the theater watching a movie that I grew up watching as a little kid. I can't even tell you guys the amount of magic that it put in that movie for me. Like, rewatching Revenge of the Sith now brings up all of the appreciation that one experience gave me. Like, that movie was great, but seeing it in theaters made it incredible. Number one, cemented. No movie. Okay, let's roll back. If they do decide to release the Rey movie or the Hunt for Ben Solo movie, maybe that will be my number one just because, hello, dressed as Daisy Ridley's character. But for now, it will not budge. Revenge of the Sith is my number one favorite. And I know I'm not alone in that. A lot of people in my generation love that movie. A lot of people got to experience the theatrical release last year, and that made them love it even more. And I don't know. I'm sorry. If you don't like that movie, if you don't agree, too bad. Like, this is my show. Make your own show. Like, I love that movie. So that's my favorite one. Number 7, what is my favorite Star Wars book? So my first official Star Wars book was the Ahsoka novel. And I really enjoyed it. I was actually excited to go back and read some of the beginning parts of it because it picks up right after the Siege of Mandalore. Obviously, there's been some discussions about that because there's changes from the beginning of that book versus what actually happens in Clone Wars season 7. And, some people have a problem with it. I do not. I think the Siege of Mandalore was beautiful. I think the Ahsoka novelization is beautiful. It is okay for both to exist at the same time. I'm fine with that. And I actually later purchased on Audible Ashley Eckstein, who voices Ahsoka, reads that book. So Ahsoka reading Ahsoka. And so that made me love the book even more. If you guys can't tell, there's a theme here of sentimentality. I mentioned that, but that's probably my favorite book. My second favorite book is the Revenge of the Sith novelization. I know, not super original, but you guys, if you're watching that movie and you're like, I don't really know, like, I can see the hype, but I don't really get it. Like, is this the movie? Like, Revenge of the Sith haters, like, if you get it. But if you read that book and then rewatch the movie, I guarantee it will change your rewatch. Matthew Stover, I'm pretty sure that's his name. Yes, because it's right here. Matthew Stover, the way that he writes this book is so well done. You can see here's my bookmark in the back from when I was rereading it. It is very, very well done. I don't even know where to start. It's one of those things where, like, if I start, I don't know where I'll be able to stop. Like, the whole book is just so well done. It increases my appreciation for Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It just gives you different perspectives into characters that are featured in that film that maybe you can't hear their inner dialogue for the choices that they're making. It just gives you tremendous insight into Anakin's inner turmoil. It just is very well done. So I do appreciate the Revenge of the Sith novelization. Another book I will say is Rise of the Red Blade. I've read a lot of Star Wars books. I'm excited to read more. But Rise of the Red Blade is a recent one, and it features a brand new character, Iskat Karis, and she is of an unknown alien species. She doesn't know who she is. No one in the Jedi Order can give her any of these answers. And it isn't until her master is killed in the Battle of Geonosis that she really starts to kind of uncover the secrets of her past. Well, then when Order 66 happens, she's recruited to become an Inquisitor. So it gives you insight into the Inquisitorius, which I feel like is a very interesting concept because Palpatine and Vader can't hunt down these living Jedi on their own. They certainly can't send stormtroopers to do the job. So it makes sense that they would have to hire and train Force-sensitive users to execute this assignment. And so that whole concept is just very interesting. We see a little bit of the way the Inquisitorius works in Tales of the Empire. We see it in the Obi-Wan Kenobi live action television show. We also see it in Rebels. But this book, Rise of the Red Blade, really does a good job giving you kind of the inner workings of the Inquisitors, how it works, their thoughts, that they're really, some of them aren't bad people. They just did what they had to do to survive. Like Iskat is faced with that question from Emperor Palpatine. Hey, do you want to become an Inquisitor or do you want to die? What am I supposed to do? So, and he's very like Palpatine is, very crafty with how he poses that question. It's not just, hey, do you want to do this or do you want to die? It's like, hey, if you become an Inquisitor, I will grant you the freedom and the access to find all these questions about your past that you've been wondering your whole life. I can help you figure out who you truly are. So it's almost not even a question for her. She's not like wondering, should I, shouldn't I? It's kind of like, no doubt, I'm going to become an Inquisitor. So that book was really well done just because it offers fresh perspective, maybe some new ideas into Star Wars that I personally had never thought of before. And then, like I said, it also just does a good job giving you different perspectives from different masters and Padawans during that time, sort of the Revenge of the Sith prequel era of the Jedi Order. So I enjoy that book as well. Okay, so moving on to number 8, my favorite Star Wars character. I'll give you 3 guesses. It's Rey. It's Rey. Actually, like I announced earlier on our bonus episode, Empire Radio, the episode that we discussed female characters this week, I talk a lot about Rey. I think she is a victim of poor writing. I think that there was so much more potential with that character. A lot of people have issues with her being a Palpatine. And if you do some research, J.J. Abrams deciding to make her a Palpatine wasn't decided until halfway through filming episode 9. So his third movie, our third movie with this character, he didn't even totally know who she was, what she was supposed to be. So yes, I love Rey because seeing a female Jedi on my screen as the main character of this new trilogy, this new era of me getting into Star Wars was just so incredibly exciting to a 15, 16-year-old girl, looking back. But also, I'm a huge fan of writing. I love to read. I love to come up with different characters, write little stories. I have a ton of unfinished drafts for different novels, tons of Pinterest boards for different characters I've created with backstories. I have a personal Star Wars original character that I've created and think about. I've drawn her a few times. So I love the creativity and the background that goes into the hard work of writing a successful character. And that's part of the reason that I love the movies and the books and the shows I do, is because you can pick out what characters were set up for success and what characters maybe were just kind of pushed to the side. You're just kind of a placeholder. And unfortunately, because Rey was not as fleshed out as I think she could have been, the writers never asked themselves, what could you become? Like, what amazing things can we do with you? Instead, I do feel like her character development and her character journey was not prioritized in the writing room. And so a lot of her potential just kind of fell on the cutting room floor. And what we have left is, she has cool scenes, she has some cool dialogue, but for the most part, a lot of it is poor writing, it's poor character development. And so I think I love her because I just have a soft spot for that. Like, I think a lot about the potential of this Rey movie up and coming, which is so exciting because, a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's getting delayed. Like, maybe that's a good thing because Dave Filoni is finally going to be in charge. And look what he did with The Bad Batch. I'm sure he wasn't happy with some of the creative choices that the sequels made, but he was able to create an entirely new show to explain some of the elements from that trilogy, help it make a little bit more sense. And we got The Bad Batch because of it. And so I just wonder, like, what could she become in the hands of people who actually care about a character like that, who care about a Force-sensitive loner who just wants to belong, who hungers for a mentor, a sense of belonging, a sense of love, really a story of found family. If that was developed correctly, what could she have become? And I might lose some of you here, and that's fine. I get it. This is more for the girlies. I'm a Reylo. I called it the first scene of The Force Awakens when he takes his mask off. Girl, 16-year-old me was screaming in the theater, let me tell you. So I'm hoping that Ben Solo comes back. Like, the fangirl in me would love to see that. I think everything with the Force dyad is super interesting, very cool, something new in Star Wars that we have never seen before. And I don't know, I can't say enough good things about her. Like, I do want to see more of her. I do want the right people to be in charge of her stories because I think she could be really incredible. I was talking about this on the Empire Radio podcast, that one of the things I read is that Daisy Ridley she strongly had a sense that she thought Obi-Wan Kenobi could be, that she was a descendant of that character. And so that was kind of what she was thinking when she got hired on for the role. No one confirmed that for her, but that's kind of what her suspicions were. Which, if you ask an actor or an actress, what do you think about this character, their entire job is to know the in and outs of who they are portraying, especially on a theater screen. So I'm going to trust her. Like, if that was her instinct, she knows that character. If that's what she thought the character was headed toward, I love that. And how cool would that have been, you guys? This is what I'm talking about, like the wasted potential. Because if she would have been a descendant of Obi-Wan, then that means it would be Satine and Obi-Wan, which we all know the theory with Corky. Duh. What if Corky was Rey's dad? Like, this is where my brain kind of starts going, and I just love her. I love all the fan art of her. I like her yellow lightsaber. That's my personal favorite color of lightsaber. So, I don't know. I think what I love about her so much, besides she was the character that helped me get back into Star Wars when I saw her on the big screen for the first time, was also just, wow, I would love to see what this character could become. Like, what if she was treated with the kind of care that Padme, Leia, Ahsoka, like these really big characters? Because when you think about it, Leia was the woman of the OT, right? Padme was the woman of the prequels. Rey was supposed to be the woman of the sequels. That's just kind of how the pattern was. And I would love for her to get a little bit more creative justice personally. So I love her because of that. I hope that all makes sense. I'm sure some of you are probably like, oh, Rey. Like, I get it. I've been fighting for my life since The Force Awakens, but I don't care. I love her. Sorry. So my next question is my Star Wars to do. I wrote that. What are some things that I want to do when it comes to Star Wars? Obviously, I have a long list of books that I want to catch up on. I try to read as much as I can, but with how busy my life is getting and is about to get, I'm just not able to read unless I'm on vacation or my day is over and I'm laying in bed on my Kindle reading at night. And if you're anything like me, if you read enough at night, it makes you kind of sleepy. So I'm trying to catch up with some of my Star Wars books. I would also say another thing that I want to do when it comes to Star Wars is like cosplay more, like look for more outfits, because I think this is really fun, like to do the makeup and to get the outfits. I also, like I was saying earlier, when it comes to the show, like I want to get more Star Wars collectibles. I would love to have like a real lightsaber. I think that would be so cool. I have this one. I put it in frame for the YouTube video today, just kind of on theme with the dressing up. But this is the lightsaber that I had when I was a little kid. It has the button. It's blue. So my brothers and I used to like sword fight with these. So I do like having this one. I wear it when I'm all dressed up in my Rey outfit. But how cool would it be to have like an actual one? Like, I see a lot of those. I also would love to have more like Star Wars Lego sets. I don't know. Now that I'm kind of getting into this and fully embracing it, like there's a lot of things that I want to do that I'm excited to do and try and learn about. So I also would like, if I have the time, to get into more like Star Wars comic series. So if you guys have any comic series that you recommend that you think I would like, just based on the previous things I've said in this episode already, feel free to comment about that. I'd be happy to read anyone's recommendations or at least check them out. Yeah, that's kind of the extent of it. That's a lot, but like that's what I would like to do. So now I thought we could get into a little bit of the listener questions. The other day while I was putting up the outline, I wrote down that I was workshopping a name for fans of the show. I don't know if we're there yet. Like, this is only episode 4, but it's, a girl can dream. Like, if there's a specific name for the fans of the show, because it feels weird calling the listeners and the viewers fans, because I don't feel so much that they're like fans of me as much as we're all just fans of Star Wars. Like, you're here because you want to talk about Star Wars. You want to hear someone else express their love of Star Wars. So I don't know. I'm kind of workshopping like some ideas for like the Village Jedi fans specifically. So if you guys have any ideas for that, send me a message, drop a comment, whatever. I'd love to hear it. But anyways, let's get into some of your guys' questions that you left in the comments for one of my videos I posted on Instagram and TikTok. So let's get into that. Number 1, someone asked, what is one character that I would have as a mentor? I didn't think a lot about these questions yet because I wanted my reactions to be kind of like natural and not so much like scripted. So I wrote these down, but I didn't totally think a lot about them. I wanted to do that on air with you guys. So one character that I would have as a mentor, I really do think having Ahsoka as a mentor would be pretty awesome. We see a little bit of that with Grogu in that episode of The Mandalorian when Din Djarin, they go to find her and she's like, I can't train him, but I'll send you somewhere to call for a Jedi who might be willing to. So, but then we see her wanting to get into training with Sabine in the Ahsoka show. So, I don't know kind of what her thoughts are with that. Like, do you want to train someone? Do you not? Like, I'll do it. Like, so I think training with her would be cool just because she has so much experience. So much experience. She survived the Clone Wars. She was trained by Anakin. She's canonically defeated 4 Inquisitors that we know of. So she's incredibly skilled. And the way that we see her in the Ahsoka show and Mandalorian live action, Rosario Dawson's portrayal of her is kind of like a samurai-esque take. So she's very calm and collected. And I think having a mentor like that would be pretty awesome. So I probably would want Ahsoka as a mentor. If things could be different, obviously I would have Qui-Gon as a mentor. Star Wars what if Qui-Gon didn't die? But I'm going to say Ahsoka for that one. Good question. Thank you. The next question is, what kind of process do you have for creating your podcast episodes, such as like equipment, editing, or uploading? So I actually feel this is a good time to share. I had a podcast before this one that was kind of more like a lifestyle podcast, because originally I wanted to start a Star Wars podcast, but I was a little nervous. Sometimes the Star Wars community can be like hot and cold. So I was a little nervous. I was like, maybe, when I know a little bit more, I'll do it. So I started a podcast a couple years ago that was more just focused on like my life. I had a few followers, like my friends and family would tune in and then like write in a question box, like tell me your like most embarrassing moments, or like, share with me tips for this or whatever. And then we'd read that on the show together, me. And sometimes I would have like my brother, my dad on the show. And so that was really fun. So I kind of just took what I learned from that show and approached this podcast in that way. So I use a program called Audacity to record audio only. So like the beginning parts, the beginning of the episode where it's like, I have a message from the Village Jedi. Like, I used Audacity for that. I also use CapCut. And I didn't start using CapCut until I decided that I wanted this to be a video podcast. So that has been a learning curve. Like I said, I have a ring light. I have 2 monitors. So one is kind of what you guys see for me to edit later, just to make sure everything I want is in frame. And then the other one is my show notes. And then I have you guys, my webcam, which is just a USB Logi, what does it say? HD 1080p. It's pretty basic. You can get it at like, I don't know, Staples, Best Buy, something like that. And then this microphone my dad got me, super sweet. He got it for me for my other podcast to support the show. And so now I'm using it for this one. He's always supported my dreams. So he got me this one. It's a toner microphone. It has a really nice like adjustable arm. So I like that I can kind of move it anywhere. Sometimes I reorganize my desk and the microphone can just go wherever it needs to go, hands free, so I can gesture. But besides that, I have a pair of Skull Candy headphones that I use for the gym. Just plug those in. And yeah, I use CapCut. And then as far as uploading, I use a program that I pay for every month called Buzzsprout. And that just hosts my RSS feed. So if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, I would recommend Buzzsprout. It's very user friendly. And you can use it. They host your podcast on different listening platforms. So like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, things like that. And then YouTube is its own beast. Like you can use Buzzsprout to upload audio only through YouTube, or you just go to YouTube Studio directly to do kind of what I'm doing. So, okay, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. When it comes to recording, so I record video like this, and then how do I get that on Apple Podcasts? How do I get that on Spotify? I downloaded a plugin for Audacity where you can just drop in videos and it'll extract the sound from those videos. So I just upload the sound as a WAV file and we're good to go. YouTube has definitely been a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So if there's anyone out there listening and you're a little apprehensive going from audio only to YouTube, I would recommend it. It was a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not so bad once you get the hang of it. I've still got a lot of things to learn, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I think that's what counts. So, good question. Thank you. We have 3 more to go. So the next question is, do you agree with Dave Filoni's take on the meaning behind the Duel of Fate song? How it was essentially a duel between Maul and Qui-Gon for Anakin's fate. We've already been over this, how much I'm obsessed with that was embarrassing. We've been over this, how much I've been obsessed with Revenge of the Sith recently. So The Phantom Menace, if you're not familiar, has this song called The Duel of Fates. And it's a song that's like, like it's like dun 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 dun. Like if you haven't seen Star Wars, you've probably at least heard this song. It's when Darth Maul comes in, he's all dramatic and he's like, I'm gonna fight you. He gets cut in half. Him and Qui-Gon are fighting, him and Obi-Wan are fighting. But the whole reason that it is called Duel of Fates, according to Dave Filoni, what he thinks is because Anakin's fate is at stake. That if the dark side wins, Anakin's doomed. He's going to fall to the dark side. But if the light side wins, then he's going to be okay. And it's kind of like a war for the mentor, basically. And obviously the light side wins, but the dark side kind of wins too. So it's very balanced, which is Anakin's prophecy for the chosen one. You're going to bring balance to the Force. Obi-Wan walks away and he becomes Anakin's master. But there are a lot of people, myself included, out there who believe that if Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon would have walked away from that fight, the light side would have won entirely, then Anakin would have never turned. If Qui-Gon was Anakin's mentor throughout his life, he would have never turned. So I do agree with this take, and I don't think that is a hot take. I think the majority of prequel lovers do agree with this take. It is significant in the Star Wars community when you talk about Anakin's role as the chosen one, bringing balance to the Force. And this scene, this song, I do agree, holds that weight. Very, very obvious parallels. I love that. And I'm totally into all that. Like the symbolism when it comes to writing, their costume design, their dialogue, their theme song, like what is the symbolism behind some of that? A lot of it is very, very interesting. So thank you for that question. So our next one is, Have you ever been to or plan on attending a Star Wars celebration? I have not had the pleasure of going to one. I would love to go to one, especially because sometimes at these celebrations, majority of the time actually, they have panels where you can pay to go meet your heroes. Like you can meet the voice actors of characters in the Clone Wars. You can meet like live action actors like Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, and like you can just feel like you're part of, I don't know, and you can meet like Dave Filoni. Like it's just, it is where all Star Wars fans go to thrive, I think. And a lot of really talented fans will put together super complex, detailed cosplay outfits, like full-on Mandalorian armor. And it's just really, really cool. So I would love to go. I haven't gotten to go, but I think it would be so fun. If I'm not wrong, let me Google it. I think there's one coming up in Los Angeles in 2027. Let me look it up. Star Wars Celebration. And that's like not too crazy. Like I think some Star Wars celebrations have been held in different countries, and that's obviously a little more difficult to go to. But yes, Star Wars Celebration 2027, April 1st through the 4th. So I would love to go to that. I don't know if I'll be able to just because I don't know how expensive it is, but I think it would be really fun. 2027, wow, that's crazy. So almost a year from now is the next one. Yeah, good question. I would love to do that. So our final question is, do you think Star Wars has had a big impact on cultural mythology in movies? Absolutely. I actually just made a post recently on social media about, I listed a bunch of female characters and kind of like their roles in the grand story, and how vital that these women are like backbones of some of these Star Wars stories, you know. And one of the ones I posted obviously was Princess Leia. And if you do research about George Lucas's concept behind Princess Leia, she was really meant to completely change how people perceive women in the sci-fi genre. Like she paved the way for the rest of these female characters. And I think that's so evident. Post Princess Leia, every strong female Star Wars character just reflects part of her in some way. They're very independent. They have like action-driven leadership. So I think, and character design, they still look like they slay. Like their outfits are cool. They have like their makeup done. Their hair looks great. But at the same time, they're saving the galaxy. So I do think that Star Wars has had a huge impact on cultural mythology in movies. Yeah, I don't really think there's any more to say about that. I think that what they have been able to do as far as just women representation alone is incredible, but also different representation with like different cultures. And I think how the different breakthroughs they've made just in technology, like the CGI and the set designs, hand painting different things back then. It just, some of those practices are still integrated in Star Wars projects today just to honor how big of an impact the original trilogy and George Lucas's vision for the franchise had. So I don't know. It's really exciting just to kind of go back and watch some of the documentaries that I've watched a few times that are on Disney Plus. I would recommend Light and Magic and Empire of Dreams are the two I can think of off the top of my head that do a good job kind of talking about this exact subject, that Star Wars has really changed the game for a lot of different franchises, a lot of different genres, a lot of character development styles. It's very interesting. I would recommend that. So that's all I had for you guys. Like I said, I wanted to take a little bit of time this week now that we've kind of gotten into the rhythm. We've established an online presence. Who I am, me as the host, my show, kind of what it's about, a little bit about my Star Wars journey, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. So before we wrap this up, I look forward to seeing you guys again next Friday. If you're interested in the posting schedule, I posted that on my Instagram and my TikTok, so feel free to go check those out to see what you're in for the rest of March. But other than that, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and may the Force be with you. To support this show, please leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you for spending some time with me this week, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next Friday. This was The Village Jedi. Until we meet again, old friends, and I mean this in the nerdiest way possible, may the Force be with you.